Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 4 of my best bets for tomorrow's racing action. Just going to be focusing on the action at Newmarket and York tomorrow, where I'll be giving you a nap, a next best, a long shot, and also as well an extra tip. There'll be no lay of the day tomorrow. I thought there was a lot of competitive racing on the cards there. There's some interesting races. We've got some group races, we've got a rearranged derby, we've got a rearranged Musadora Stakes at York, we've got some exciting races at Newmarket as well, some pattern company action there. I'm looking forward to going through it with you, and a few of my tips will be in those races. But before we get into the recap and into tomorrow's tips, you might have noticed I've had a haircut now, so I can actually see you guys during the video. I'm not going to be flicking my fringe and trying to see the camera, so that's good there. Finally got it booked in earlier in the week for today, so yeah, I can now see what I'm doing, and hopefully that means we can have some more winners along the way. But yeah, just quickly do the recap. At the current time I'm recording, I'm just doing this before 5 o'clock this video, and we've had 2 of our 3 tips run so far. Our first selection, our nap at Bellewstown, King Pellinor. He ran okay, he went to the front, no excuses really, just probably bumped into a better horse on the day from Noel Mead's stable, but definitely be interested to see where he goes next, you know, and he not one to give up on. I think he ran a fair race, he ran his normal race, going out from the front, he jumped well, but in the end he just bumped into a better rival today. In the 2:10 at Ripon, our other selection came along quite quickly after King Pellinor, and we went with Benilla did for Chris Fairhurst and Paul Mulrennan. Now this horse had a strong course record at Ripon, 3 wins from 6 starts, but maybe the race was just a little bit too warm today. There were some well handicapped horses, some horses as well that might be open to a little bit more progression. Benelid now is, I think he's around about 5 or 6 years old, you know, so he's not like you'd say like he's fully exposed, but you just wonder like how much improvement did he really have off his mark. Maybe a couple of pounds, but if he probably would have needed to probably run up to a 90+ rating to win the race, I think, looking back with a bit of hindsight. But the reason I took him, I selected him, was because of his excellent course record, and a lot of horses at Ripon just don't handle the track. It's a very undulating track, there's a lot of bumps and dips during the track, and it often catches out a lot of horses, and it's normally a horses for courses track. So yeah, Benelid, he ran an okay race, staying on in the closing stages, but he probably was just a little bit outclassed in that race, but not one to give up on for the future. And then our last tip runs in the 8:40 at Newbury, the last race on the card there. We've gone for King's Royal, we put it up at 9-1 last night, and in some places now is currently 5-1 co-favourite. So a lot of people have not obviously copied me, but have gone down the same thoughts process as I have. I think thinking that going up and trip could definitely see him to good effect. For me, he's a horse that looks like he's wanted to go up and trip for quite a while now, and he's finally going to get his chance on the flat to prove it. He's done okay over hurdles a couple of times, but that was in the National Hunt Sphere. But back on the flat, you know, I think it's definitely worth a go, and I think the value probably has gone, to be honest with you. But if there is the market support for him, they obviously think that a good run is expected. So yeah, that's going tonight in the 8:40 at Newbury. But enough of that, let's get into the racing for tomorrow. And we're going to start off with my nap tomorrow, which runs in the 1:15 at Newmarket. Now, my nap tomorrow is going to be a horse called Maydanny for Jim Crowley and Mark Johnston, currently 6-4 with bookmakers at the moment. Now, we put this horse up on my YouTube channel, you might remember, earlier in June, when he actually won a handicap at Yarmouth. I think he was rated 80 that day. He's got a sexy pedigree. He's by Dubawi out of attraction, who was a Guineas Classic winner for Mark Johnston. And he's actually, through that pedigree, actually half-brother to Elikam, who's another stable star for the Johnston team. Hasn't been the most straightforward horse, Elikam, but he's definitely turned up in some big races in the past. But this horse, he looks like he's still got quite a lot of progression to come, and he's off a mark of 90 tomorrow. And if you actually look at his last race, he ran a really valiant race in the Silver Royal Hunt Cup, one of the new races that was added to Royal Ascot. Now, he was on the far side of the track that day, where for the majority of Royal Ascot, and I always say, to be honest, for the majority of the meetings, I would say 70% of the meetings at Ascot on the straight course, you always want to be drawn towards the stand side, in my opinion. If you're drawn on the far side, for some reason, I don't know why, it always makes life a little bit difficult. I think the track sometimes rides quicker on the stand side. But yeah, he ran a great race on the far side, and if there was a race that was just for horses over there, he would have won it. And the form's worked out okay. There's been a couple of winners come out of it, and I just think, even though there are a few nice horses in this race, I'd be disappointed if this horse couldn't maybe be better than a mark of 100 in time, considering his pedigree and the form he's showed so far and seeming to progress from start to start. So I think he can take another step forward tomorrow, and at 6-4, I think he's definitely a value bet there. I wouldn't probably want to back him if he went as short as even money, but I think at 6-4, I think that's a fair price, and I think he's got a strong chance tomorrow. We then go to the 225 at Newmarket with the Bahrain Trophy. Normally a ledger trial here, and I'm going to take a chance with Aasy. Currently 5-2 with bookmakers for Jim Crowley and William Haggas. Now this is going to be my extra tip tomorrow, but I think this horse could be anything. He could bum out, or he could be brilliant. He bolted up on his seasonal reappearance at Newmarket on the Rolly Mile course, when he bolted up by 10 lengths on soft ground. He was an odds-on favourite that day. He was 8-11 on, but clearly they do think a lot of him. And he's got a nice pedigree as well. He's by Sea the Stars, lovely staying pedigree, and William Haggas' team in great form at the moment, operating at 32% strike rate. And you'd be disappointed if this horse couldn't run well in Pattern Company. You know, it's definitely the natural progression to taste him in these waters now. And I just think, yeah, at 5-2, he could be anything. And if he replicates his run last time, I think he's the one that they've all got to beat, in my opinion. Yes, I know Aidan O'Brien sent him one, but we don't know how good that is. And you've got the likes of Aldebaran in here, you know, who had a hard race, in my opinion, at Royal Ascot last time. I just think if there is one that could maybe be Group 1 class in time, it could be this horse, and I think he's quite an exciting horse on paper. So for me, Aasy, he could, like I say, he could bolt up or he could blow out, but at 5-2, I'm willing to take a chance there, and that's why he's going to be my extra tip. We then go to Newmarket, stay there for the 335, and this can be my long shot with a horse called Brad the Brief. Got a lot of time for this horse, currently 12-1 with bookmakers at the moment, and you can get 5 places on offer with the likes of William Hill. I think also as well, Bet Victor are offering 12-1 at the current time of recording with the 5 places. But this horse, he's been really consistent so far in his career, 3 wins from 5 starts, and he won on his seasonal reappearance at Haydock when he had to carry top weight in a 3-year-old handicap. He then, for some reason, I don't know why, they just didn't keep him for a race like this, but they decided to run him in a conditions race against some of the older horses at Haydock at the weekend. But he ran all right, to be fair to him. He held his own. He finished in 3rd place against some nice types, and he's off a mark of 96. And I just think a long-term target could be the Air Gold Cup with this horse, because Connections, the yard, won it with Angel Alexander last year, and they ran him quite a few times in these sorts of handicaps. And I just think he's definitely got a bit more to come off his current mark of 96. He's drawn in stall 18 as well, which actually I think more often than not in these handicaps is not the worst place to be. That's towards the far side of the course, you know, especially in these big fields. You don't want to be always drawn in the middle. You want to kind of be against one of the rails, and it kind of splits up. But I remember last year a lot of the horses winning on the far side, and I think at stall 18 that's not a bad draw for this horse, in my opinion. And even though you got the likes of Dancing in the Street, you know, currently favourite for the race for William Haggas, was a massive eye catcher last time, and even though the form does work out, I think he's 7-2 now in places, and I just think he's a little bit short there. Whereas Brad the Brief, you know, at 12-1, I think that's a good each way bet, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he went very close. I'd be disappointed, to be honest, if he didn't run a solid race and he didn't make the frame, you know, because he's definitely got solid credentials, and a lot of his form is working out quite well from last season. So for me, at a 12-1, and if the rain does come tomorrow, that'd be okay as well. I should have mentioned earlier in the video that they are expecting a little bit of rain tomorrow, and he can handle cut this Brad the Brief. He won on soft ground at Newmarket on the roller course last year. So for me, I think he's got a good chance, and he's going to be my long shot tomorrow. We then end my video with the final tip of the day in the 450 at York with a horse called Solo Saxophone, currently 9-4 with bookmakers at the time of recording for Paul Mulrennan and Ben Haslam. Now this horse is by Frankel, and it's had a bit of a varied career. He went over jumps for a time. He was trained by Dan Skelton, and I believe he was Frankel's first progeny winner over National Hunt in the UK. I think he won at Wetherby, it might have been, but he was a little bit hit and miss. But ever since he's gone to Ben Haslam and he's been running on the flat, it looks like they've got a nice horse on their hands here. He won at Thirsk very convincingly, beating Sudonia, and Sudonia has finished second and had a win already under her name, so she's definitely boosted the form to a good level. And then I thought this horse might be a little bit out of his depth when he went to Haydock in a slightly better race, but he won with any amount in hand, and the handicap has got him to a mark of 84, and I'd be disappointed if he wasn't rated higher than 90 by the end of this season. You know, he could definitely go for a race like the Cesarovic, maybe by running him at York as well. They might want to run him in like the Silver E-Ball. You know, he probably won't get into a race like the E-Ball, but maybe next year he could if he really did keep finding and improving, you know, because you probably have to have a mark of 100 plus to get into the E-Ball. But Solo Saxophone, you know, I think he's got a lot more improvement to come, and even though yes, this is the best flat race he's been probably in so far in his career on paper, I'd be disappointed if he couldn't keep that progression going. And at 9-4 tomorrow, I think he's got solid credentials in this race, and that's why he is going to be my next best. So they're the 4 best bets for tomorrow's race. Then just quickly run through them again. In the 1:15, my nap at Newmarket is Maydanny, currently 6-4. My extra tip runs in the 2:25 at Newmarket with Aasy, 5-2. My long shot runs in the 3:35 at Newmarket with Brad the Brief, 12-1 each way with 5 places. And then in the 4:50 at York is my next best with Solo Saxophone, currently 9-4 with the win only bet. So they're the 4 best tips for tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button here on my YouTube channel for more videos. You can also follow me as well on social media. My Twitter handle is @LuckyLoader15, and you can check out a little bit more about myself by going to my website, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll be seeing you soon.